Welcome, everyone. My name is Susan Patterson. I'm a national leader in the fight against human trafficking, and I've worked with scores of churches to set up human trafficking ministries. According to a major human trafficking task force, law enforcement is 3% of the solution, nonprofits are 7%, and the community is 90% of the solution to the end of human trafficking. In other words, we are not going to arrest our way out of this problem. The main role of the faith community is to prevent human trafficking, and given that 51% of people in the U.S. attend a faith community, we have the power to do that. Given that human trafficking is predicted to surpass drugs in size in a few short years in the U.S., the time to act is now. What I have found that has many people hesitate to start an anti-human trafficking ministry at their church is they feel like they just don't know enough, which is why I created this YouTube channel. This is part 1 of a 3-part series for churches. This video is about setting up your ministry to win. Part 2 addresses how the faith community can take action in the fight against human trafficking. Part 3 is for churches who have had a ministry for a few years where they partner with a nonprofit to invite survivors into their church community. Without a community to be part of where they can make friends and socialize, many survivors of human trafficking will return back to the life of prostitution, where they wind up being re-victimized by a human trafficker. Most ministries can only do about 3 events a year, as churches need to accommodate their other ministries. So once you have gotten your ministry off the ground with the events at your church, you can start thinking of doing something in your community, like the church that had a table at their farmers market to educate their community. You can go to your local schools and ask them what they're doing to protect the youth from predators. You can find actions like this in this video, Anti-Human Trafficking, the Power of Community Engagement. For those of you who want to be leaders in the fight, the channel is divided into 2 main categories, which are training videos and interviews with experts. If you start here with this video, How We End Human Trafficking, by the time you have seen the series of 20 videos, which will all be up by the first quarter of 2022, you will understand the dynamics of human trafficking in a way that you will have more than enough knowledge to be a leader for your church or service club. If you want to be a community leader or a speaker, you will need to add in education on what law enforcement and the nonprofits are doing, which is included in the section entitled Interviews with Experts who are making a real difference, like Bishop Oliver, who is bringing Jesus to the pimps, and Albert Lomas, who is preventing sex trafficking in gang communities, or Jessica Pittman, who started a community task force, and in her video she shares with you how her task force has engaged 50 churches to do a Freedom Sunday. So just look at the playlist at the channel entitled Interviews with Experts to find these videos. Last but not least, we have national events where the faith community comes together to learn and take action, and the dates for our National Faith Coalition meetings are at our website, throughgodsgrace.com. Before I begin with the content for this video, I want to acknowledge you for something, for saying yes to God and seeking to find out how your faith community can engage in the fight against human trafficking and child exploitation. You are awesome. With regard to setting up your ministry, of course we start with prayer and ask God for direction, because only God is going to end human trafficking and child exploitation. We need to change people's hearts, and only God can do that. He did that for John Newton, the author of Amazing Grace. John Newton was raised in the faith, but then became a really bad guy, an 18th century slave trader. However, when faced with a storm at sea, John told God that if God would save his life, he would change his ways. Immediately the sea became calm. And after that, John did change his ways and became instrumental in helping Wilberforce end slavery in England. Think of the words, I once was lost, now I'm found. Only God can create that kind of transformation, so we need our prayer warriors in this fight. All business models consist of supply, demand, and the middleman. If any one of these components is missing, the business collapses. We need to let law enforcement take care of the middleman or trafficker. The faith community is ideally suited to take on supply and demand with the main focus being on creating awareness events, protecting foster children, discouraging porn viewing, supporting nonprofits, and purchasing fair trade, ethically sourced products to prevent third world labor trafficking. These are some examples. There are more. In this video, we'll be covering building a strong relationship with your team, how to begin your ministry, how to keep your group motivated, what to cover at meetings, and how to get the support of your pastor. If you want a ministry that lasts over time, your relationship to each other is important. The groups that tend to stay together the longest are the ones where participants become friends and take care of each other. So plan social events for your group so friendships grow, and make sure you're having fun. In starting any group, you begin by finding out what your group is passionate about. When a group links its passion to action, that group tends to grow. To stay motivated, the group needs to clearly understand how the actions they are taking will make a big difference in the fight against human trafficking. The first step in motivating anyone is to make the problem real with concrete stats. For instance, if you wanted your group to take on having an awareness event, you could let them know that 1 in 5 children are solicited sexually while on the internet before the age of 18. Only 25% will tell their parents. The second step is to tell them a story of how an awareness event made a difference, because stories engage people emotionally and moves them into action. For instance, here's a story of the difference an awareness event made. One family of a 14-year-old was vigilant about protecting their daughter from predators. They refused to give her a cell phone and monitored her internet usage. However, she met a guy in line at her friend's house while using her friend's computer, and the predators sent her a cell phone. They talked and she fell in love. Then the predators sent her a bus ticket to meet up with him. The parents knew something was going on, so when their daughter did not come home from school, they went to their pastor in a panic. He called people, and together the church put out flyers all around the city. As it turned out, the girl could not find the bus station, probably because of her parents' prayers, and wound up at a McDonald's where people recognized her and detained her until her parents could come get her. However, the girl was still determined to meet up with her online boyfriend, and her parents could not deter her. As a result of understanding that even children from good families could be exploited, the church had a presentation on how to recognize an online predator, which I led. And when I talked about predators texting the potential victim 50 times a day, sending them gifts, a cell phone, and a plane or bus ticket, the girl began crying. She realized that she hadn't found the one, but was being exploited. It broke her heart, but she disconnected from her online boyfriend and is now vocal about warning her friends. You can have these kinds of successes by simply having an awareness event. The presentation I used on how parents can protect their children from child predators and human traffickers is at my channel, and the link for the channel is in the video description below. So far, we have talked about the relationship with your group and motivating them. Now let's talk about your meetings to plan an event. You want to make sure you have planned out an activity by your third meeting, or your group will lose interest. At your first meeting, you want to simply brainstorm ideas and pick one of those. Then get your pastor's approval. Meeting number 2, plan out the event. Assign who will do what. Meeting number 3, nail down your promotions like bulletin announcements, flyers, etc. One of the things you want to be smart about in managing your meetings is to keep moving them forward so that you end with action steps. Human trafficking and child exploitation has people so outraged that people can sometimes take over your meeting talking about how bad it all is. You need to gently acknowledge what they said and then say, human trafficking is brutal, and the purpose of our meeting is to do something about it. So let's talk about our first event. With regard to meetings, we have talked about planning one event. What about the overall plan? You want to look at how many activities you want to do each year at your faith community and in your city. best to do 3 or 4 simple activities a year so you don't overwhelm your group, but have enough going on that it's exciting to be part of your ministry. You can start with something simple, an activity your faith community already does, like a drive. If you have a small ministry group, you cannot do it all. So recruit other ministries to help you. You can recruit the seniors group or another group to do a drive or fundraiser for a nonprofit. You can ask the women's or parents group to take on activities that support foster parenting and mentoring. You can invite the youth group to do an awareness event like a sleep out in solidarity with homeless youth, 1 in 5 whom are victims of human trafficking. You can just Google sleep out to get more information on that. So now let's talk about what works to get your pastor's approval. When you say pastor, we need to do something about this. What they hear is that they need to take the time and energy to help you, and they may not have any. They might respond by telling you that they think the issue is important and let's talk about it next year. So instead, come up to your pastor after a service and state your idea like this. Pastor, as you probably know, human trafficking is predicted to surpass drugs in size in a few short years. Then let them know what you want to do in a few short sentences. For instance, my prayer group wants to host a blanket drive for Covenant House who saves homeless teens from human trafficking. All we need to do is set up a table and have a bulletin announcement the week before. Is that something that would work to do on a Sunday after the services? If they say yes, then ask, who would you like me to follow up with to set this up? No more than 2 or 3 sentences for your idea, then 1 request for who to follow up with. If you keep talking, you will lose them. Your pastor may want to meet to know more, or they may just direct you to the staff person who's going to help you implement your idea. In considering your overall plan, it is important that you take the time to really understand this issue. So in addition to the 3 ministry videos, do watch the key videos, like the one on how the business of sex trafficking works, and 17 ways to reduce sex buying, etc. Our audience at the Faith Coalition meetings felt that this one on engaging men is one of the most inspiring videos they have seen. In part 2 of this series, we're going to look at ways churches are taking action. You will be inspired, I promise. Please do your part to engage the faith community in the fight against human trafficking by sharing these videos and subscribing to this channel. So start your meeting with a prayer, read a relevant scripture, and get started on your next event. Thank you for watching.